Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Gerald Mohr starring in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe from April 18th, 1950. This episode entitled The Angry Eagle.
Get this and get it straight. Crime is a sucker's road, and those who travel it wind up in the gut of the prison of the grave. This time I was in the country where the night should have been nothing but peace and quiet. But a pair of angry eagles changed all that. One was solid gold and too close to a battered corpse. The other weighed 160 pounds and was too quick with his fists. It happened like this.
From the pen of Raymond Chandler, outstanding author of crime fiction, comes his most famous character in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Now, with Gerald Mohr starred as Philip Marlowe, we bring you tonight's exciting story, The Angry Eagle.
Hello.
Mr. Philip Marlowe, please. Clover Lake, California calling.
This is Marlowe.
One moment, sir. Go ahead on your call to Los Angeles, please.
Hello, Marlowe. Babe Durney. Remember me, light heavy contender in 39?
Oh, yeah, sure, I remember you.
Good.
You still have that bar in Southgate?
No, I'm back in the game.
Ah.
Trainer this time for a welterweight that's good. His name's Danny Eagle, and he's another Barney Ross, believe me.
No kidding.
Yeah, but he's in trouble. Come on out, will you, Phil? Clover Lake's only 20 miles. You can be here by 6. It's just outside of Malibu, up in the hills.
Well, what's your boy's trouble, babe?
Plenty. And it could end up being his life. Now step on it, Phil. Oh, and listen, you're a sports writer from Detroit, not a private detective. You got it?
Got it. Leaving now, babe. It was an hour's drive to Malibu Beach in a film colony where the convertibles outnumbered the hardtops 5-1. And another 30 minutes up into the mountains along a steep spiral of macadam which at every turn made more of the Pacific below and less of Malibu. Until finally I was at the top. To my right, there was a dirt road which a freshly painted sign said led to Clover Lake Training Camp, private. Raleigh Lance, owner. I drove on into what turned out to be a converted summer hotel marked office. A couple of buildings that had been stables and maybe 24 cabins spread out over a sloping green acre that led to a cliff's edge, and the lake some 100 feet below. When I pulled in and parked in a gravel semicircle which was close to a roofed-over boxing ring, where a lot of muscles and sweatpants was making a punching bag sound like a machine gun, I saw Babe Durney coming toward me in ducks and white T-shirt, with an angry fighting eagle as in Danny on it. He was more bay window and less hair than last time, but still the same quick smile under a nose that spread over half his face, and an extended hand that could have passed for a catcher's mitt.
Hiya, Phil. Glad you didn't take any longer. Things are worse.
Oh?
Danny got canned an hour ago, and he's burning up. Told Lance and his wife where they both could go, and I think he's going to personally see to it that they get there.
Now, wait a minute. Who's this Lance? And his wife?
Raleigh Lance. He runs this place, Marlowe.
Yeah.
Strictly the big-time, big-shot manager. His seat at the fights has to be A1. His license plate the lowest number he can get. Yeah, half-pint and French cuffs and built-up heels. He's got 10 fighters there. Danny's one.
And the wife?
Oh, yeah. Myra. A lot of curves, a lot of war paint, and never enough clothes on.
Know what you mean.
Yeah, well, also not much to keep her busy, and Lance hasn't got time to run around down in Malibu.
Which means sheep's eyes at the boys, huh?
Yeah, Danny Eagle included. Not that the kid ever did anything about it, mind you. Figured she was just being friendly. Come on, let's move on down by the lake like I was just showing you around.
Hey, Jersey.
Yeah.
You can quit now. Do a mile in the shower.
Okay, Paige. See you later.
Anyhow, Phil, this morning, Lance and the missus had a beef when the big shot got mad, read Myra off, and called Danny and tried the same thing on him.
Didn't take, huh?
Nah, so the boss canned him. The kid went back to his cabin and started kicking the fixtures around. That's when I called you. He's got a lot of temper, Phil.
Yeah, but what do you want me to do?
Help me get him out of here before he tangles with Lance. He said he wasn't going to get off the ground till things were squared away, and he... Oh, hold it.
What now?
Over there near the edge of the cliff. Friend of Lance's, Jess Weatherwax.
Well, that old man?
Yeah, hayseed to look at or listen to, but he owns about every piece of land around here.
Uh-huh.
Rich, retired, and has just learned about prize fighters. Calls them gladiators. Also, he's got a mud-fence-faced daughter he's real anxious to pass off.
Yeah, also, he's coming this way.
Oh, hello there, son.
Yeah, don't encourage Gav. It's his specialty.
Well, babe, my boy. What shape are you in tonight?
Oh, well, not quite fighting trim, Mr. Weatherwax. I was just showing Mr. Marlowe here around the grounds. He's a sports writer.
Sports writer?
Yeah.
Well, glad to make your acquaintance, Mr. Marlowe.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. When I think about what I've missed all these years not following the ring...
Mr. Weathermax, excuse me, but we're in a hurry. I want Mr. Marlowe to see the lake before it's dark. We'll see you at dinner up at the lodge later, huh?
Yes, I'll look forward to that.
Goodbye.
Yeah, bye, son.
The original windbag.
Yeah.
But Marlowe, like I was saying, I gotta have your help.
Yeah, but what can I do now? The kid's through, babe.
Sure, but look, Phil, I know other managers. I also know the makings of a champ when I see him, and Danny Eagle's got the stuff.
And?
Okay, I like him. Phil, you gotta get next to Lance. If he thinks you're doing a feature on him, he'll be your best friend in a couple hours. A little Napoleon.
Uh-huh, and when I'm buddy-buddy, I steer him away from ordering his muscle man to play pretzel with Danny while you're trying to get him out of here, is that it?
That's right. I already planted that you're coming up here, so all you gotta... Hey, look.
Huh?
Up at the lodge on the porch there. That's him and Myra going in the office.
My cue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but first tell me one thing, babe. Does Danny know about me?
No. He'd turn against me if he did. He likes to settle his stuff his own way. That's why you gotta get to Lance. In or out of the ring, it still takes two to make a fight, Phil.
Yeah. All right, babe, I'll do my best. Yeah, Philip Marlowe, Detroit Daily News. Wonder if there is such a paper. No, it doesn't sound too bad.
Listen, Myra, I don't want any more trouble with you. I'm fed up.
Oh,
You're
fine.
fed up. You? Well, that's funny. You drag me up here and
Shut
expect
up.
me to...
And try real hard to understand this. I dropped 10 grand, 10,000 berries last night on that punk Steve Rocker. I'm not very happy.
So you want a fighter who stinks. What's that got to do with me?
I don't know. But if you'd let him alone, he wouldn't have looked so tired in there.
Of all the cheap cracks you've ever made, that's about the...
The what? Go on, say it. You never flirted. You never played up to it. You were only being friendly. Go on, spit it out, why don't you?
Don't think I won't. When we're alone.
Oh,
Excuse me, I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I was looking for Mr. Lance. Raleigh Lance?
that's me. What do you want?
My name's Philip Marlowe, Detroit Daily News, Mr. Lance.
Oh. Yes. Come in, Mr. Marlowe.
Oh.
There was a note here on my desk that I should expect you for an interview. Glad to see you.
Oh, thank you. I don't believe I've,
My wife, Mr. Marlowe, Mrs. Lance.
How do you do?
Hello. From, Detroit, you said?
Yeah.
How are things at the Beaver Club? That's quite a spot, I hear.
Oh, yeah, quite.
I used to go with a reporter there. He told me about some wild parties at their press club. Busy Beaver Nights, they used to call them.
Yes, busy beaver night. Lots of fun.
Mm-hmm. I'll bet.
Myra, Mr. Marlowe and I'd like to talk a while, so,
So I'll be running along. It was a pleasure, Mr. Marlowe.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Raleigh. I'll see you later.
yeah. Well, Mr. Marlowe, have a chair. Have a drink?
Yeah, I will, thanks. It's quite a spot you have here, Mr. Lance.
Make it Raleigh, fella.
All right.
Yeah, it's okay. But you're not up here to write about a training camp, are you? Of course, I know background counts, but, well, like this drink, the soda helps, too. But the scotch is the thing, huh? Health?
Same. Yeah, you're right about that scotch.
Mr. Lance?
What is it, Kelly? I'm busy now.
Well, it's about Danny Eagle.
Did you give him his walking papers?
No, Big Gurney stopped me, Mr. Lance. Said he'd give Danny the word himself that he could handle him.
That fat pug! Who does he think he is?
Well, he said he just didn't want trouble, Mr. Lance. Besides, he said Danny was taking a walk.
Yeah? Well, I'm going to give him the air, too. I've got enough enemies without some lousy trainer who's on my own payroll. Pardon me, Mr. Marlowe. I'll only be a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Help yourself to another drink. We'll talk later after dinner, about 8. Oh, and here, catch. Best cigar made. Let's go, Kelly.
Uh-huh, best cigars. Seats marked A1. Yeah.
Hey.
Huh?
Don't go away mad. My hubby always runs out on people, even private detectives.
Slips, huh?
Busy Beaver Night, indeed. I made it up. I never even heard of Detroit.
Why'd you bait the trap?
Lance, the jealous jerk, has threatened to hire a detective a half dozen times.
Oh.
After all this fuss over Danny Eagle, you were about due. Well, shall we walk? It's a nice night.
Let's leave it that way, huh?
What do you mean?
Isn't Danny enough for one day?
Listen, mister, you're starting off with 2 left feet. I was friendly with Danny Eagle, period.
And Steve Rocker?
The same. Only Steve was a little dull. A mind dedicated to comic books. All fighter.
Not according to his last buff.
Yeah. Rocco moved like he was drugged and collapsed in the 3rd, so it's my fault. Oh, the big shot is quite a loser. And don't bother with your next question. I can feel it coming. Why have I stuck?
Yeah, well, it belongs here someplace.
Well, I've stuck because... Well, because I thought that each battle was going to be our last. That sooner or later he'd have time for me.
He's a busy guy, Myra.
So was King Solomon, but he always had room for his wives.
True.
I thought this place was going to be our answer. Just the 2 of us, plus the peace and quiet of the country, with Malibu on hand for a change of pace. So what happens?
Still busy, huh?
Yeah. So busy that he spends 8 hours a day with Jess Weatherwax, a guy he never heard of until he started this camp, but a guy who thrills to hear the lives and loves of Raleigh Lance. And that leaves me with his daughter, Clementine, if I don't talk to the fighters. Clementine, whose shoes are number 9, with an IQ to match. Good night.
Wait a minute, Myra. Where you going?
Going as far as my cabin on an old-fashioned cry. Or maybe just an old-fashioned, I don't know which. Good night.
When Myra pivoted on a spiked heel and stomped off into the dark, I knew that I had to move fast because when next she and hubby met, the fact that I was a private detective was going to become public domain. And from there on out, I'd be of little use to Babe Durney, and if Lance's muscle playmates caught up to me, of no use to anybody. I located Danny Eagle's cabin among half a dozen others, peeking out of a thick grove of pepper trees, showing light from a half-open door. Hey, anybody home? Inside, there was a closed valise on the edge of the only bed. And on the dresser, some money, a package of lemon lifesavers, and a tie clasp. A gold one with a gold angry eagle on it that said Danny was still around. Then he got to talk for himself.
I think you're in the wrong cabin, mister. I haven't vacated yet.
Well, don't you think it'd be easy all the way around if you did, Danny?
Right now, I'm not looking for the easy way, mister. I've been walking and thinking about that. That and a pair of people I don't like. A pair I want to square myself with. Mr. and Mrs. Raleigh Lance. Ooh!
It was purely a case of mistaken identity. But it served as a reminder that it still took 2 to make a fight. And that the only chance I had left was to get next to Raleigh Lance and keep him away from Danny Eagle. I spent a half hour going from the lodge to Lance's empty cabin to the dining room and every other place where I thought he might be. But finally, I remembered Jess Weatherwax, the one-man fan club whom I located back up at the office.
Oh, hello there, son.
He was peeling off his coat and getting ready for canasta with something uncombed and built like a length of pipe. Who had to be daughter Clementine.
What can I do for you, son?
Mr. Weatherwax, have you seen Lance?
Why, no, Mr. Marlowe. We just came in. You deal, dearest. Yes, Daddy. Is it important?
Very.
Daddy.
Oh, excuse me, child. Mr. Marlowe, my daughter, Clementine.
How do you do?
Very fine, thank you. Mr. Marlowe, Daddy told...
Hey, Marlowe, is that you in there?
Oh, it's Babe Durney.
Yeah, excuse me.
Phil, come with me, quick.
What's wrong?
Lance is dead, Marlowe.
What?
At the edge of the lake on the rocks.
Accident?
I don't know. Come on, Phil.
In just a moment, the second act of Philip Marlowe. But first...
April 18th, 1950, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Hi, this is Kyle Horvath with the White Pine County Tourism and Recreation Board. If you want to get away from the big cities and get back to nature this summer, give us a call at 775-289-3720 or visit us online at elinevada.net. There's so much to do and see I can't mention it in 30 seconds, but check out our website and you'll see what Nevada is really all about. elinevada.net or follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Give us a call at 775-289-3720 or visit us online at elinevada.net.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox Mohr, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, April 18th, 1950.
Now with our star, Gerald Mohr, the second act of Philip Marlowe, and tonight's story, The Angry Eagle.
Sharp lakeshore stones, like countless fighters' fists, had hammered all the life out of Raleigh Lance. And as we stared down at him, the circle of light from the electric lantern in Babe Gurney's hand began to dance over the corpse. I took the lantern, turned him away from the twisted body at his feet, and sent him back up the path to camp. Find a phone and quietly call the police. After that, I took another quick look at all that was left of the little big shot. I went up the path myself and got as far as the jagged hole in the rail where Lance had gone through. I had just enough time to see a few things before I was met by Myra. Just like she'd been before, except for a handful of nervous fingers that just couldn't leave her neckline alone.
I saw Babe. He told me about Raleigh. Is it true?
Yeah, it's true, all right. Your husband's dead. Babe just left, so you must have been on your way here when you ran into him. How come?
I had a date to meet my husband. For a chat.
Why here? He didn't strike me as being the romantic type.
He wasn't. Neither was he the type to talk where he could be overheard. Especially when he was cornered.
What do you mean?
I put Raleigh's back against the wall tonight. I finally got hold of a way to make that inflated ego turn loose, his favorite trinket.
Meaning you?
Yes. Marlowe, about an hour ago, I found out that Raleigh was crooked.
Fixed fights?
Yeah. When I left you, I went to our cabin for a drink. But the liquor was all gone. Lance kept spare bottles in the back of his closet, so I went to look.
Found what?
A briefcase. It wasn't Raleigh's, so I opened it. There was $35,000 in it. And a note congratulating him on his coaching of Steve Rocca. Rocca was drugged in that last fight, Marlowe. Raleigh sold him out, and I can prove it.
Oh, that's what you two were going to hash out over here, huh? The price of your silence, which was divorce.
And no strings. Told me he wanted to think, then he was going to give me his answer, but now... that's all unnecessary.
You're so right. Myra, come here. I want to show you something. See? Here on the ground?
What do you... No, I don't see anything.
Somebody put up quite an argument right here before Lance went through the railing.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And here's something else.
Oh, what's that, Marlowe?
It's a gold tie clasp, baby, with an eagle on it.
Danny?
Yeah, Danny Eagle. This changes things plenty, huh?
Danny? I can't believe Danny would murder Raleigh.
Well, you better start believing it and get back to your cabin and stay there with the doors and windows locked.
You think he might go for me
You
next?
were half the beef. Now that he's gone this far, chances are good he's got something nice thought up for you, too. Unless I'm making the king-size mistake and you and Danny turn out to be a team.
Are you crazy?
It could figure both ways, baby. So I'll keep it in mind until I get something more to do with it. Meanwhile, like I said, take care of yourself. I dropped the tie clasp into my pocket and then started looking for its owner, who could be number one candidate for a noose. I decided to try Danny's cabin first, but when I got there, it was dark, with everything just as I'd left it. Until I turned to go. Someone was framed in the doorway. The was the gentleman farmer and novice fight fan, Jess Weatherwax.
You looking for something special, are you, Mr. Marlowe?
As a matter of fact, I am.
I figured you would be, what with being a reporter, because I know there's been some kind of a ruckus here tonight.
How did you know there was trouble here?
Well, I happened to be passing by a certain phone a few minutes ago, and I heard that trainer, Babe Durney, calling the police.
Oh. Okay, as long as you know that much, you may as well know the rest. Somebody shoved the boss of this place out through a railing into 100 feet of thin air. He's dead.
Well, Lance murdered? By one of his own men? Oh, no, I don't believe it. He's a good manager. His boys loved him, every one of them.
You should be so loved, especially by a guy like Danny.
Danny Eagle?
None other. And that's only half of it. Your good manager, Mr. Lance, was a fight fixer. One who'd even drug his own stable to be sure to lose. He was as crooked as a hyena's back leg.
He prearranged boxing fights?
That's putting it mildly. His own wife, Myra, pinned that on him just tonight. She didn't go into detail. She didn't have to. She had enough proof to make it stick because she was getting a divorce on the strength of it.
Oh, I find it mighty hard to believe all this, Mr. Marlowe.
There's something else. I'm not a reporter. I'm a private detective.
You're a private detective?
Yeah, called in by Babe Durney because he was worried. Now I am. Anyway, here's what I'm getting at. If you're really sincere about liking your violence according to Marquis of Queensberry rules, you can do me a big favor.
What can I do?
Keep an eye on Myra Lance for me.
Yes.
I left her in the cottage. Dan Eagle may be only half finished with what he started.
I'll do my best. You can count on that, sir.
Okay, I'm going up to the office at the lodge now and find out if anyone saw Danny leave the grounds. I'll see you.
Oh, hello there, Mr. Marlowe. Did you get enough story material from the box fighters?
For a couple of novels, Clementine. You alone here?
Well, I am now. My daddy and I were playing canasta, but he left a while back. Went off without his coat, too, see?
I know. You've been here in the office ever since, huh?
Why, yes, why?
Well, maybe you can help me. Did you...
Gladly. But you've just got to help me first, Mr. Marlowe. Have you got a cigarette paper?
A cigarette paper?
You know, the makings. I'm trying to roll me a cigarette, ran out of mine. I found my daddy's tobacco, and then I absolutely emptied his coat pockets here looking for a paper, but there wasn't any. You wouldn't happen to have it.
No, I'm afraid not, Clementine. Here, have one of mine. In fact, have two. Now, my question, Did you happen to see Danny Eagle go out the... Go out?
Out the what, Mr. Marlowe?
Huh? Oh, never mind.
April 18th, 1950, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion, along with The Adventures of Jungle Jim, next.
It's a big, bold story set in the heartland of America, along the edge of Lonely Mountain. I am open for business. And so Big William Gorgon, played by handsome Michael James, fiercely set down his Midwest roots.
Oh, darling, we're going to sell bathrobes and raise chickens.
Set his adoring wife, Wilhelmina, portrayed by beautiful Glenda Olsen.
Oh, I love our store, Will.
But they hadn't counted on Big Ralph's bathrobes and cattle store coming to town.
Oh, Will, what will we do, Will?
Will had a plan, a way of facing off against tough Big Ralph. We're going to change the face of America. We're going to advertise.
Adver what?
With print, broadcasting, and bus benches, we're going to tell people who we are and where we are.
What's a bus?
And so the story of how one man brought advertising to the heartland.
Oh, will it work?
It will. Well, my name ain't Will, Wilhelmina. You got to advertise or we'll die. And so the greatest marketing story of all time is here. Advertise or die, dopey.
Put your message on this national advertising platform. Email classicradiotheater@gmail.com. classicradiotheater@gmail.com.
Are you suffering with arthritis or osteoporosis? Do you have diabetes? Did you know that these are just two of the hundreds of diseases that have seen improvement with Dr. Wallach's incredible longevity products? You can't get them at a health food store. The only way to get them is to call us at 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065. Do you have heart disease, fibromyalgia, or high blood pressure? Do you have a terrible time losing weight? Dr. Wallach can help. He was a veterinarian and cured diseases in animals. He felt that he could do the same for humans, so he became a physician. Over 50 years of research and helping people like you goes into every bottle of Dr. Wallach's amazing discoveries. Do you want to feel better? Learn how to treat the cause of your problem rather than covering up the symptoms with drugs. Call 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, The Angry Eagle, April 18th, 1950.
Listen, Clementine, did this thing come out of your daddy's coat pocket, too?
That old ticket stub?
Yeah.
Out of that little pocket in the big one on the right side, it was... Well, Mr. Marlowe, what's wrong?
I don't know, but I better find out right now. As I ran out of the office and past the empty rope ring toward where the cabin stood, I was full of the conviction that Clover Lake Training Camp was due for a second corpse any minute. Only this time I knew that some fast adjectives I myself had tossed off and not a hot-headed fighter were playing cause and effect. As I made for the door of the Lance cabin, there was no help in the fact that my volunteer guard, Jess Weatherwax, was nowhere in sight. I called Myra's name twice and still got no answer. So I stepped back to go to work on the door with my shoulder when the lock turned from inside.
What is it, Marlowe? What are you doing here?
At the moment, Myra, baby, I'm counting lucky stars, the kind that kept you hale and hearty in spite of me and my big mouth.
I'm afraid I don't know what you mean.
I mean, I almost spilled all, including the clincher, which was where you could be located. All this, mind you, to the guy who no doubt was in it with Lance right up to his Adam's apple. And the fact that you're still breathing means that he must have given up and beat it because as a topper I sent him here to guard you. Say, what's the matter? Aren't you even curious?
Why, yes, sure, of course.
So am I, Marlowe. Don't move.
Oh, no.
You have a talent for stupid audacity, young man. Myra's still breathing because up to the point where you knocked on this door, she still didn't realize my connection. But when you showed up, I couldn't take a chance. I was forced to bring this gun into things and wait behind the door. Now, obviously, you both know.
And I was so relieved you still had strength enough to open the door, Myra. I stepped in chin first and was happy about it.
Well, I was afraid to warn you.
Well, it's your move, Weatherwax. What'll it be?
I have no choice. What?
You'll have a lot of bodies to crawl out from under, Buster.
It won't be too hard. Danny's already framed for Raleigh's murder.
Framed by whom?
By Raleigh Lance himself. Oh, such a simple little plan. I worked it out as I've worked out everything else around here.
Just for the record, how was it supposed to go?
Once Myra knew about Raleigh, she became dangerous to me. She had to be killed. So I told him how to set up the whole thing.
You know, you're really enjoying yourself, aren't you?
Frankly, no. Or I just don't intend to take the rap for my late partner's stupid clumsiness. Oh, but this has gone far enough.
Oh, no, it ain't.
Babe, look out, he's got a gun!
Oh.
Duck, Myra!
There, boy, Phil. He lost his gun, and I still got a good right hand. My boy ain't gonna be framed for nothing.
Babe, stop it.
I'm gonna fix this guy.
Lay off, babe, will you? Lay off! Lay off, I tell you! Lay off!
Okay.
He's got to tell us the rest. Come on, Weatherwax, talk. What actually happened on the path to the lake? Well?
Lance set up the frame on Danny as I told him to by planting that eagle tie clasp at the weak spot in the rail. And then he made a lot of marks on the path, like there'd been a fight.
Go ahead.
And after that, he went over to kick the rail loose. He tripped and he fell. All because of those shoes of his with the hard, slick soles and built-up heels. Silly little man.
Well, it wasn't long until the boys from the sheriff's office arrived with a good doctor, a lot of open notebooks, and an endless supply of questions. But finally, all the pieces were fitted together. Very surprised, Danny Eagle, who had done a lot of thinking, was back from a second long walk. And the whole thing had boiled down to me, alone at the bedside of a heavy-jawed trainer, who had a happy look on his ugly puss for the first time that night.
My boy's gonna be champ now, Marlowe. Thanks to you.
Oh, thanks to you, babe. We were almost down for the count when you showed up. Hey, how's the shoulder?
That's nothing. Hey, look, tell me something. How'd you back old Weatherwax into that corner?
Oh, well, I found a ticket stub from his coat pocket with a number A2 on it. And Weatherwax claimed that he'd never seen a fight or met Lance until the camp opened up here. But that stub proved that just a month ago, he sat right beside Lance.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Lance always had seat A1 at the arena.
Check. In short, Weatherwax was a liar who dropped his guard.
And in this racket, you do that just once and you're out.
Yeah. Hey, see that the Eagle keeps his guard up, will you, babe? I'm going to be betting on him from now on.
Don't give it another thought. Good night, Phil.
And I didn't give it another thought. Neither did I think about an arrogant little guy whose phony heels and twisted mind had dumped him into his own trap. Nor about a fat gambler who traded in perverted victories and rotten, hopeless defeats. Instead, I thought about the sun coming up over the hills, and a nice big platter with a ham omelet on it. And then a good, solid 8 hours sleep. Nothing else. You know, sometimes I think I have no soul.
The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, bringing you Raymond Chandler's most famous character, star Gerald Mohr, are produced and directed by Norman MacDonald and are written for radio by Robert Mitchell and Gene Levitt. Gerald Mohr can currently be seen starring in Republic's The Blonde Bandit. Featured in our cast tonight were Joan Banks, Barney Phillips, Wilms Herbert, Howard McNear, Elliott Reed, Frank Gerstle, and Ann Morrison. The special music is composed and conducted by Richard Arant.
April 18th, 1950, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
No offense, but are you a little fat when you look in the mirror? How would you like to learn the secrets to lose 3 to 5 pounds a week easily without joining the gym or going through any crazy diets? It's called Body Sculpt by Med Diet. For the last 2 decades, we've been helping people just like you that have pounds they want to shed. We've helped millions of people lose thousands and thousands of pounds over the years. And now it's your turn. Learn the secrets of how to lose weight with one simple phone call. You'll see an amazing difference in a matter of days. Don't believe us? We'll offer you a money-back guarantee. If you're ready to start losing weight right now, call right now to learn more about your risk-free order to Body Sculpt.
Call for your risk-free offer. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. That's 800-738-5332.
Now, an episode of the weekly serial, Jungle Jim. This was originally intended to support the newspaper cartoon and promote that color cartoon that was appeared on this date, April 18th, 1936.
Presenting the adventures of Jungle Jim. Last week, Jungle Jim notified the hotel manager of the mysterious shooting of the Chinese messenger Lo Tung and assured him that if the authorities had any questions, they could find him at his camp just outside the town. As Jim neared his camp, an airplane roared over his head and landed close to his tent. When he reached it, Shanghai Lil, dressed in flying togs, was waiting to talk to him. The thrilling adventures of Jungle Jim are pictured each Sunday in the Comic Weekly, the world's greatest pictorial supplement of humor and adventure. The Comic Weekly, each page printed in full colors, is distributed everywhere as an integral part of your Hearst Sunday newspaper. And now we continue our story. Patrick O'Shaughnessy Flynn is just about to close up his cafe for the night when the door opens and a police lieutenant enters.
Good evening, Flynn.
Ah, Lieutenant. I wish you the same. And what can I be serving you with?
Nothing but some information. This visit is in the line of duty.
Is it now? And what laws have I been accused of breaking, if I may be so bold as to ask?
Have you been here in your cafe all evening?
Most of it, sir.
Now tell me exactly how you spent this evening.
Well, let's see now. Do you want me to start before me supper, with me supper, or after I ate it?
Oh, after supper will do.
Then after supper it'll be. As soon as I'd finished, I filled up me darling clay pipe here, and I started to polish up me glasses until I should get some customers. I tell you, Lieutenant, you've no idea the amount of work it is to keep these here glasses all shined and...
Oh, well, never mind that. You polished the glasses, then what?
Whilst I was working away and sort of totally owling to myself, the door opens. And who should come in but me old friend Jungle Jim Bradley?
Ah, now we're getting somewhere. Be careful now and tell me exactly what conversation took place between you and Bradley.
Yes, sir. We greets each other and passes the time of day like, and then Jim, he asked me if I have any mail for him. I says no, I hadn't, and then I suddenly remembers the letter little lemon-faced low-tongue left for him.
Oh, so you knew something about the Chinese?
Oh, I only knew that he hung around me cafe for a couple of days without saying anything, but give me a small beer, please.
What was this letter you say he left for Bradley?
I'm coming to that, sir. You see, I tried to get a message for Jim out of him. He said he'd been told he could meet Jim here and that he couldn't give me the message.
But he left it in a letter for Jungle Jim.
That's what I thought too, sir, until Jim reads the letter out to me.
What do you mean by that, Flint?
The letter was as ununderstandable as the talk of the little yellow fella.
Why? Was it in Chinese?
No, sir. It was spelled out in the King's English right enough. But it didn't give us no more hint as to what he was doing around here than we knew before.
Why? What did it say?
The note told Jim it was terrible important for him to meet Lo Tung at his room in the hotel. And Jim was to make sure he wasn't followed.
So the two of you went to the hotel to meet the Chinese. That's why you weren't here all evening.
Yes and no.
Now explain yourself, Flynn.
That I was at the hotel for a few minutes, yes. But that the two of us went to meet the Chinese, no. Jim went by himself.
When did you go?
Well, after he had been gone a little time, I gets to thinking. I says to myself, Patrick O'Shaughnessy, suppose Jungle Jim's walking into a trap. That letter asked him to make sure he wasn't followed, and
so you went up to the hotel. Did you go straight to the room of Lo Tung?
I did that.
Did you hear anything out of the ordinary as you approached it?
In a manner of speaking, I did, sir.
You heard angry voices?
I did not. It was a shot I heard, just as I reached the top of the stairs.
When you got to the room, was the door locked or unlocked?
Let me see. I knocked and hollered, all right, Jim. And then Jim, he hollered out he was, and for me to wait a minute.
Well, now we're getting somewhere. Bradley asked you to wait a minute, did he? Why?
Why, because he had to come to the door to let me in. I remember now. Jim unlocked it and let me in. Then he locked it again.
I see. How long a time elapsed between the time Bradley answered you and he opened the door?
Oh, sure, it was only a bit of a minute, sir. Why, you ain't thinking...
Well, never mind what I'm thinking. What happened after you entered the room?
I nearly jumped out of me skin to see the Chinese, Lord have mercy on him, lying flat on his back on the floor in the blood stain in his nice white Panama suit.
Did you ask Bradley what had happened?
I did that. Them was me first words. And he said whilst they was talking, a shot come through the window and struck the yellow fella.
Why was the door locked during the interview?
As near as I can make out, Lieutenant, the Chinese was mortal afraid of someone. Jim said before they started to talk at all, the Oriental looks out in the hall and then locks the door.
What was the subject of this interview?
Well, you see, won't you be having a drop or something, Lieutenant?
No, not while I am on official business. Answer me. What was the subject of this interview?
Well, it seems they didn't rightly get around to the subject, sir. It was an opening skirmish-like. Neither had seen the other before, mind you, and each was sizing the other up a bit before divulging too much, if you know what I mean.
Yes, of course.
'Tis glad I am to hear that, sir.
Now, Flynn, did you examine the body of Lo Tung?
I did not, but Jim did.
Did he open the dead man's shirt?
No. There was no need. Jim felt no heartbeats and saw his eyes were staring, and then he called the manager, Bill Wyman.
But neither of you opened the dead man's shirt?
No, sir.
Sure about that?
I'll take me oath on it.
Then how did that purple triangle get stamped over his heart?
Purple triangle?
Yes.
Faith, I never saw a purple triangle in me life, much less on a heathen Chinese chest.
Well, there was one there when we examined him after you and your vagabond friend left.
You don't say.
I do say. And I'll say something else. You'd better stay pretty close to town for a while, Flynn. There may be some further questions we'd like to ask you after we talk to Jungle Jim Bradley.
Flynn.
What's up, Bill?
Lieutenant.
What's the matter, Mr. Wyman?
Both of you, come up to the hotel quickly. Lily DeVrille's native boy, Mamba, is running amok. Meanwhile, the little motorboat of the Reverend Chalmers makes its way down the river toward Burawani.
Are you all right, Dad?
Yes, my dear. I'm all right.
I'll steer the boat now if you'd like me to.
No, I think I can hang on a while longer, Lynn, thanks.
I wish there was something I could do for you, Dad. Is the pain any better?
No, it's about the same. Lynn, dear, if anything should happen to me, promise me that you'll go direct to your mother. You won't hang about Burawani.
Oh, Dad, nothing must happen to you. You've got to be all right. You've just got to.
The Lord's will be done, my dear. If he says come home, I can but obey his last command, and I've obeyed his first. Go thou and preach my gospel to all nations.
What's the matter, Dad? Why did you twist up like that?
Just a sort of twinge, dear. I'm all right now, Lynn.
Oh, I'm so worried about you. Hadn't you better lie down and let me steer?
No, dear. You aren't familiar with the river as I am, and heaven knows I'm no expert. I'm hoping to last until we get to Burawani. But, dear, you haven't given me your promise that anything should happen. If the final call comes to me, you will go directly to your mother in Shanghai.
If you leave me, Dad, I'll go back to Mother.
That's a good girl. That's my daughter.
I know what you're thinking. That I'd throw myself at Jungle Jim. Well, I won't. I may love him, but I've got some pride, Dad.
I'm sure you have. If Jim should find himself in love with you, my dear, I'll not deny. It would give me great pleasure to give you both my blessing and to call Jim son. But I know you've too much dignity and pride to attempt to bring that about.
Don't worry. If Jim were the last man on earth, he'd have to do the proposing as far as I'm concerned.
Good. Let me see that map for a moment.
Here it is.
Ah, yes. Now, here we are. And there's Crocodile Bay over there. See the water? Foaming with lashing tails? Well, I'm glad to get past this place with our engine going full speed.
So am I. And I'm glad there's a moon so we can see our course.
Yes, my dear. We'll need all its beams to guide us through the channel among the submerged rocks. How's the petrol holding out?
Half full, Dad. How far are we from the channel you were speaking of?
Round the next bend, Lynn. The river straightens out for a stretch. There'll be a rocky point on either side of us, forming a sort of gateway. When we pass between those points, we'll be entering the channel.
Then we ought to be almost at Burawani.
No, the channel marks the halfway of our journey.
Then hadn't I better relieve you for a while, Dad? You've never left the rudder since we started.
No, I'll be all right, my dear. We're coming to the bend. There we go down the bend. And there, straight ahead of the rocky point. See them, Lynn?
Yes, Dad.
Pray that we reach Burawani, Lynn.
Dad, what's the matter? Oh, Daddy! Daddy! Oh, dear Lord. If ever I needed thy help, I need it now. Please get me to Burawani so I can get Dad to a doctor. Amen.
Puzzled by the mysterious murder of the Chinese messenger Lo Tung, Jungle Jim has enough on his mind without being bothered by Shanghai Lil, whom he found waiting at his camp. So he stalks into his tent, and after lighting the lamp, gets out his favorite pipe. Lil follows him into the tent.
Well, you might ask a lady to sit down.
Sit down if you like.
You might be more gracious. But perhaps it's the surprise of seeing me here.
To say I'm surprised at finding you here would be putting it mildly. Well, what can I do for you now?
Oh, you can't do anything for me, Jim. This time, I'm doing you a favor.
Don't make me laugh, Lil.
If you're going to laugh, do it while you can. I came to warn you, Jim. Your life is in great danger.
My life is usually in danger. What of it?
This is a special danger, Jim. I flew here to warn you because I love you.
Oh, I see. You're my danger.
Oh, joke if you want to, Jim, but you can't joke about this. I believe a Chinese was killed tonight while talking to you.
Why,
and telling you that you were wanted by the American consul of Shanghai. Isn't that true?
Yes. But how do you know all this?
I know more, Jim. I know that Lo Tung was about to suggest taking you to Shanghai.
Lily Gavrila.
You were to die mysteriously on shipboard.
How could you possibly know all this?
I'll explain that later.
So it was all a frame-up. The American consul story was just a decoy to get me away.
No, the United States consul does want to see you, Jim, for an urgent reason. That much is true.
Say, what kind of a game is this? I think I'll write the consul at Shanghai and ask him to give me the straight dope.
Well, there's not time enough for letters to get there and back, Jim. I'm telling you the truth. You're wanted by him, all right. You must leave at once. There's no time to be lost.
Why, the next boat for Shanghai won't leave for a week.
I know, but I'll take you there in my plane. The sooner we leave, the better.
You'll fly me to Shanghai?
Yes, Jim.
Say, is this another trick of yours?
This time I'm on the level. You know I love you.
I can't help remembering a few tricks you pulled in the past, Lil. This great love you say you have for me didn't stop you then. I don't see what difference it could make now.
Oh, I don't blame you for being suspicious, Jim. But I think I've made up for all the trouble and pain I've caused you.
How? By coming here with this warning? By offering to fly me to Shanghai?
Partly. but for a greater reason than either of these.
Well, what's this great atonement of yours, Lil?
I think it will prove I'm on the level, and it will explain how I know what happened tonight.
Well?
Jim, Low Tongue was shocked at my request.
Will Jungle Jim fly with Lily DeVrilles to the American consul at Shanghai? The exciting adventures you have just heard dramatized are pictured in full-color action pictures in the current issue of the Comic Weekly, the big Comic Weekly distributed with your Hearst Sunday newspaper everywhere. A new feature is now presented each week. It is called Heroes of American History and picturizes the careers of great men and women in the story of our country. There is also all of the famous characters who live in the world of color pictures, Bringing Up Father, Skippy, The Little King, Barney Google, The Katzenjammer Kids, and many, many others. Don't forget our date next week, same time, same station, for a continuation of the adventures of Jungle Jim.
Promoting those Sunday funnies, April 18th, 1936, Jungle Jim on Classic Radio Theater. You can find our programs anywhere podcasts are served if you miss a day. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, Apple Podcast, Overstar. You can find them all sorts of places. Search Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. You can also find it on our webpage, classicradio.stream. Thank this station, support their advertisers, tell your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.